Malcolm Page, part of the Racer X outfit, who second standing today at the end of the count, but a win. Fantastic. Let's talk about that.
Yeah, so the third race of the day we managed to get the bullet. I think we were a little bit lucky with that because Peter Condy and co broke their rig halfway up the last work, and they had a controllable lead, is probably the best way to put it.
It's a fantastic way to state it.
Yeah. So you know, they had a you know, they were sailing very well and going very well through the water, and I didn't expect to catch them unless they did something, you know, well, obviously something terrible happened to them, and they lost their lower, I think, and then obviously the rig came down, so which is a pity for them, but obviously gave us the opportunity to win the race.
I mean, it's lovely to see you in Australia. How do you fit in all the sailing with your day job, or how do you fit your day job into sailing? Which way does it work?
I don't sail too often anymore, which is obviously a bit sad. I literally landed the morning of the day before the regatta, or the registration day, before first race day. So I think I'm feeling, well, today certainly feels better than yesterday, and of course the day before. So maybe tonight I might sleep with, you know, like a normal person on the time zone. But the last time I sailed was the Hong Kong Worlds, you know, 2 months ago.
2 months ago,
yeah. The last time I've been in a boat.
Okay.
So yeah, I don't get as much sailing, but obviously I've got holidays, and here I am sailing.
Well,
in Australia, of course.
Yeah, of course. When Christmas, so you get to sort of tick a box for that one as well.
I do get to go to Sydney for a week and catch up with my family, and with the wife and I just had a newborn.
Yes, indeed. Congratulations on that too.
Yeah, so good to show her around, and because a lot of my family haven't seen it yet. So.
Yeah, and a well-stamped passport there too.
Well, yeah. Well, she wasn't allowed the Pommy one, even though she was born over there. So it's she has her Aussie one, and it's good to see her homeland.
Terrific. I guess if you put your ISAF's now World Sailing hat on for a moment, recently Alistair Fox talked about in Geneva the fact that it's likely that the sailing cups will be shrunken in size, so to speak. We're here in Melbourne at the moment. Pretty much you'd have to wonder whether Melbourne's going to be able to hang on, whether the claws are long enough. What's the thinking?
It's a good question. Look, the events committee, Alistair, the events committee, and obviously the executive of World Sailing are discussing that at the moment. With the goings on of late, obviously the new CEO and the Youth Worlds.
In Malaysia.
Malaysia, Israel, and a few other countries, believe it or not, problem, is obviously taking their attention of late. So I would have hoped we would have had an answer by the end of this month, January. I'm not sure if it's going to be possible now with obviously those other problems, but the idea is we've got to make them, there's got to be great reason for the sailors to go to every event, and obviously Melbourne struggled a little bit up to date, but we do have some ideas, and I know the way St Kilda went for that first time event, or holding the event at that venue, was incredible. I was here in Melbourne for that. We took our sport to the public. We had you know, the Melbourneites walking on the promenade there and asking what is going on, looking at the big screen. We even, obviously Mark Turnbull and I had a bit of a brainstorming idea and got some ideas of how we could advance it for this year, for this coming December. So I think Melbourne turns on an amazing venue. The only disappointing thing up to date is we haven't got the sailors there. We do have an idea of how to do that, and some of the things we're looking at with the Sailing World Cup was for it to make more sense, it probably should run in a calendar year, not starting in December and finishing in October, as it's doing at the moment. So we're talking about maybe rejigging it a little bit in that sense, so it works in a year. So when you become the 2016 champion, it actually makes sense. Also, maybe a little less events, so then the sailors are still, or they can logistically get there with their equipment, but also it makes sense with their programs. And I guess then they have compelling reasons to do it.
Sure.
And obviously we should try to keep it Sailing World Cup. So obviously getting around the world is very important. And we saw this year with the new format, the two, this year, 2015, yeah. The two European events with pre-qualifying and everything worked a treat.
Yes, definitely.
The sailors fought hard to get their qualifying spot, and then they fought hard for the final 10 spots to get into the actual Sailing World Cup. Obviously, China and Melbourne didn't really have, and Abu Dhabi didn't really have those compelling reasons for the sailors to be there. And it comes down to scheduling, with the Class World Championships and all the other events that go on. And it's just, they're conflicting problems. And obviously, regattas are setting well in advance. So to fix that problem, it's going to take time.
I think so.
It's going to take good reasoning to get a proper World Cup, and then dovetailing that with the classes to work together. And actually, believe it or not, in Southampton they met yesterday and today, the Olympic classes with World Sailing. So that for sort of 17 to 20, there's a lot of planning going on. So although this year I would say it'll still be higgledy-piggledy a little bit, as long as we get the plan right for 17 onwards, I think it can be a winner. The format is loved by all the sailors, the teams really like the ideas. So we've just got a few tweaks here and there, and I think it can be a successful event.
Well, let's keep all the fingers in that crossed, and I guess there's probably a back part of that as well, is that hopefully with all of those things that were going on that we mentioned at the start of the question, and you covered in terms of Malaysia and many other aspects attached to all of that, that with World Sailing, I think, what was it, let's hope the drop sheets get taken away and the paint dries. And
well, actually, this evening I'll be working, but by this evening UK time, the executive report will be up and online, so to speak. So we're going to make that public.
Yep.
So all the process that they've gone through, and actually it'll be a obviously cut down version, so it's digestible. Otherwise, it'll be a very, very long document and probably put you to sleep. But at the same time, I know I caught up with the executive on Friday evening before I left the UK, and they have really put a hard line in the sand for all events going forward. That they are saying that every country must, whoever is hosting the event, must confirm or commit to making sure that all sailors can compete equally, certainly on the water, under their national colours and under their flags. So, although it was a terrible thing that happened in the Youth Worlds, and obviously very sad for those two Israeli sailors, but hopefully it makes our sport better, because it's terrible when politics get involved in sport.
Indeed, indeed. If we cross back for one moment into Etchells mode, I'm not sure, but I suspect you're probably on board at Mooloolaba when a certain person from Racer X had a swim, and I was just wondering if that was the case, if you were on board, or otherwise I'm going to have a chat with Mark about that one.
How many years ago was that?
It's a few now. It's a few.
I've only done 2 Mooloolabars with Mark.
Yeah, so it might be 3, 4. I'll have to check in with Mark. But Mark had a little swim at Mooloolaba.
Oh, okay, no, although I wasn't on board.
Okay, so I was just wondering if you had the long arm to go and grab him and bring him back in, but I'll pick that one up with Mark another time.
Well, I do say I'm the fat boy on board.
and look at you.
So maybe I could pick up Mark, maybe. Maybe I could.
Okay. Well, Malcolm, obviously, thank you so much for all of your time. I know that it is tough. I know that you're at the Dinghy Show. I imagine that was probably Saturday, or was that Friday? You attended attended the Dinghy Show.
I hightailed it from after our announcement and presentation straight to the airport.
So look, you've done a marvellous thing, and here you are, second, 4 places. Well, it's Port Phillip. Anything can happen at any time. And it's only the first day of racing, even though it's day 2 of the regatta, so all the very best, and I'm sure you'll be out there on board what is another very, very quiet boat at the Mark Roundings and all the rest of it. You won't hear anything on Racer X. Keep an eye out.
Only when we're going bad.
Well, that must be spoken down into the bottom of the boat, because it doesn't come out over the top of the gunnel.
Nice. Alrighty, thanks so much.
Great, Malcolm. Thanks, mate. All the best.